I want you to close your eyes for a second, well, assuming you aren't driving, and just imagine this landscape.
It's not a pretty picture.
No, it's not. You are standing in the middle of the French countryside, but it is completely unrecognizable. It's been churned into this absolute chaos of knee-deep, freezing
It's
mud.
just a miserable slurry.
Exactly, and the air around you is literally shaking with the sputtering, roaring engines of these early mechanical tanks.
And they're struggling.
Yeah, these massive metal beasts are fighting just to move forward a single inch. Then you look up. The sky is completely darkened by the largest armada of aircraft the world had ever seen up to that point.
Which is just an incredible visual.
It really is. Welcome back to the Deep Dive, specially tailored just for you, the learner. We are so glad you're here with us today.
That imagery you just laid out perfectly captures the sheer environmental and mechanical friction of our mission today. We are exploring the 1918 Battle of Saint-Mihiel.
Right. And our source material today is a comprehensive Wikipedia article detailing the battle. The mission of this deep dive is to explore the U.S. Army's first major World War I offensive.
A huge milestone.
Absolutely. We're going to understand the sheer logistical nightmare of this specific battlefield. And most importantly, we're going to extract leadership and strategic lessons that actually apply to your own life, even far outside of military history.
Because, history rarely gives us sterile laboratory environments. It's about human psychology, stretching organizations to their breaking point, and seeing what happens when a perfect plan violently collides with reality.
Yeah, and just to show how massive a grip this battle has on our imagination, it's deeply embedded in pop culture.
Oh, definitely.
Like, it was the climax of the 1927 silent film Wings, which won the very first Academy Award for Best Picture.
Wow, I didn't realize that.
Yeah. And it's even inspiring art today. There's a modern death metal song by the band Cannon and Fiber called the Yankee Division March that's all about this specific offensive. It just has this lasting grip.
Okay, let's unpack this. Strategically speaking, what made this specific piece of land so critical?
So the geography here is everything. We are looking at the Saint-Mihiel salient.
Salient meaning a bulge in the lines, right?
Exactly. A bulge projecting out. For years, this German-held salient had acted like a dagger thrust deep into the French lines. It completely blocked the vital rail networks and communications between the French cities of Nancy and Verdun.
So it was a massive choke point.
A critical one. And the Germans had held on to it with absolute tenacity since 1914.
Which means the French forces had already spent years just throwing themselves at this position before the Americans even showed up.
Oh, the psychological toll was staggering. The area had this brutal, heartbreaking history. French troops had suffered immensely trying to reduce it. In places like the Apremont Forest and the spot grimly known as the Burn Forest, the fighting was intimate and largely feudal. That's terrifying.
It was. There's this haunting quote from 1915. During a desperate French defense where a unit was isolated and taking catastrophic casualties, a French sub-officer shouted, "Debout les morts!"
Which translates to,
Dead men, arise.
"Dead men arise!" Wow! That just paints such a vivid picture of the desperation. You're stepping into a graveyard before your own offensive even starts.
It speaks directly to the weight of the land. And that's the exact map General John G. Pershing is staring at in late 1918. He decides this is where the American forces will make their mark.
And his goal was pretty ambitious.
Very. He wanted to break the German lines, clear out those restricted rail and road communications into Verdun, and then capture the highly fortified German city of Metz.
But Pershing had to fight his own allies just to try this, didn't he?
He did. Supreme Allied Commander Marshal Foch was not keen on this.
He wanted the Americans pieced out into existing French and British units.
Right, but Pershing firmly believed in an independent American-led hammer blow. He eventually convinced Foch to allow the attack.
So he gets the green light, the troops move into position, but, as always happens, the brilliant plan runs into the weather.
The great equalizer. The operations order literally read, visibility, heavy driving wind and rain, roads, very muddy.
Very muddy feels like the understatement of the century.
Oh, entirely. It had been raining for 5 straight days. The ground was virtually impassable. Men were sinking knee-deep into freezing water. They were getting trench foot before the trenches were even dug.
Just a gelatinous soup. Imagine trying to coordinate an attack when you can't even pull your boots out of the mud.
But amidst all this misery, here's where it gets really interesting. There was a massive operational leak.
Astonishingly
A
massive.
Swiss newspaper actually published the exact date, the exact time, and the duration of the Allied preparatory barrage.
It was sitting on public newsstands. Anyone could read it.
You'd think that would cancel the whole operation, walking into an ambush like that. What's fascinating here is that the Germans didn't launch a massive counterattack. They severely lacked the manpower and heavy firepower. Facing other Allied offensives to the north, they made a very pragmatic decision.
They just left.
Yes.
Yeah.
On September 8th, days before the attack, the Germans actually ordered an evacuation. Their plan was to systematically pull back to the Hindenburg Line. The Allies later found the written order addressed to Army Group Gallowitz.
Okay, I want to pause and connect this directly to you, the listener. Think about how often in life or in business you brace yourself for this massive resistance. You build up your defenses, you prepare for a brutal fight, only to step into the room and realize the opposition has already packed up.
We expend so much energy fighting ghosts.
Exactly, unaware that the landscape has already shifted.
It's a profound parallel. But to even get the American forces to that starting line, they had to invent a new framework for time.
Yes. This is a huge piece of trivia. This battle marked the very first time the Americans used the terms D-Day and H-hour.
Right.
Why did they need those specific terms then?
Because of the sheer complexity. You're coordinating hundreds of thousands of infantry, tanks, artillery, and aircraft across different sectors. You can't just say attack on Tuesday morning.
Too much room for error.
Exactly. You need a universal 0 point. D-Day is the unnamed day, and H-hour is the exact minute.
And for Saint-Mihiel, H-hour was set for 5:30 a.m. on September 12th.
And when 5:30 hit, the armor started rolling. They had an incredible 419 tanks in total.
Which is mind-blowing for World War I. That included 144 American-crewed Renault NFTs plus French tanks.
The Renault FT really defined the modern tank layout, but the environment was completely hostile to them.
Because of the mud we talked about.
Right. Freezing rainwater leaked straight into the engines, wrecking them. Or they just sank up to their axles and became immovable targets.
Fighting the earth itself. And commanding these American tank brigades was a young lieutenant colonel named George S. Patton, Jr.
Who was not about to let a little mud stop him.
How did he handle his tanks just getting swallowed by the ground?
By leading from the absolute front. The pre-planned formations disintegrated, so Patton was physically out on the battlefield exposed to fire. He was rallying disorganized infantry and trying to physically unstick his tanks.
He was practically a foot soldier.
He was. And he actually got wounded doing it shot in the thigh while getting tanks forward. He earned a Distinguished Service Cross for his heroism there.
Wow. So while the tanks are sinking below, the airspace above is making history too.
Unprecedented history.
Right now you have the numbers. What was the scale of the Air Armada?
We are talking 1,481 aircraft.
That is massive.
It was the largest air operation of the entire war, overseen by U.S. Army Air Service Chief Mason Patrick and French General Duval. They had pursuit planes, observation planes, day and night bombers.
And this wasn't just for show, right? This fundamentally changed how air power was used.
It established the crucial concepts of modern air warfare. They proved the necessity of air superiority, blinding the enemy's reconnaissance, and they demonstrated close air support, actually strafing trenches to help the infantry.
Okay, so you have infantry in the mud, tanks grinding forward, planes screwing overhead. How on earth did Pershing orchestrate all this?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, Pershing used classic pincer movement.
Squeezing from both sides.
Precisely. The U.S. IN-4 Corps attacked the south and southeast faces of the salient. The V Corps hit the west face. And at the apex, the very tip of the bulge, the French, the 2nd Colonial Corps, launched a holding attack.
Could pin the Germans in place.
Exactly. The goal was for the American forces from the east and west to pinch through the salient and meet in the French village of Vigneault.
And it was wildly successful. I mean, the American I Corps hit its first day's objective before noon.
They moved incredibly fast.
By the morning of September 13th, the 1st Division from the east linked up with the 26th Division from the west. The trap shut. And the French took 4,000 prisoners at the apex.
But that speed, that wild success, exposes a critical paradox of this battle.
What do you mean?
The success was almost too great. Remember, they were advancing against retreating, disorganized Germans. So the Americans moved so fast that they left their own logistics behind.
Oh, because the roads were destroyed.
Right. Their heavy artillery and their food supplies were just stuck in the mud miles behind them.
They outran their own lifelines. I want to throw this to you, listening right now. How do you handle a situation where your success outpaces your infrastructure? When you launch a project or advance your career so fast that you literally leave your own support systems behind, it's a really dangerous place to be.
It's incredibly dangerous.
Sure.
Advancing without supply lines leaves you wide open to a counterattack,
So why didn't it fall apart?
largely because of the leadership. General Pershing's thoroughly detailed operations order, his combined arms approach, integrating the infantry, the tanks, the aircraft, held the chaos together.
And he had some serious talent managing that chaos,
Yeah,
right?
it did. He heavily relied on a young major to manage the complex movement of troops and supplies through that nightmare. That major was George Marshall.
The future architect of the Marshall Plan, cutting his teeth in the mud. But planning is only half the battle.
True.
You also need that audacity in the field. Small unit commanders like Patton and Brigadier General Douglas MacArthur, they had to lead from the front lines to ease the chaos when communications broke down.
And the concentration of future leaders there is just staggering.
Oh, here's one last historical Easter egg I have to drop. There was an American captain commanding Battery D of the 129th Field Artillery Regiment during this muddy battle.
A very famous captain.
None other than future U.S. President Harry Truman.
It's a literal who's who of the 20th century.
It really is. So they have all this talent, they spring the trap, they capture 15,000 German prisoners and 450 guns. But they don't go all the way to Metz like Pershing wanted. Why the halt?
Marshal Sox stepped in. He halted Pershing to redirect those troops towards Sedan and Mézières for the upcoming Meuse-Argonne offensive. The salient was cleared, and for fuck, that was enough.
So what does this all mean? When we look back at the Battle of Saint-Mihiel, it was a proving ground for the U.S. military. It demonstrated the staggering potential of combined arms. It showed the value of detailed planning mixed with frontline audacity. And honestly, it proved the absolute nightmare of logistical supply in the mud.
Absolutely. And while it's important to focus on the tactical victory, we always need to step back and look at the human cost impartially.
The numbers are sobering.
They are. The Allies suffered roughly 7,000 casualties. The Germans suffered 22,500 casualties. It reminds us of the brutal mechanical devastation of World War I, regardless of which side of the trench you stood on.
Yeah, the human toll is just staggering.
It is. And it raises an important question to leave on. The Allied forces captured 15,000 prisoners, and they advanced so fast they outran their own food and artillery in the mud.
Right.
If Marshal Foch hadn't ordered them to halt for the Meuse-Argonne offensive, would this rapid, unsupported advance toward Metz have led to a decisive early victory? Or would the lack of supplies have turned their greatest triumph into a catastrophic trap?
That is a brilliant question to succeed so wildly that you walk right into your own destruction. I love that. To our learner, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the sources today. Keep questioning, keep learning, and stay curious.